It's summer break, and I'm sitting here on my porch sipping coffee, trying to brush off this damn uneasy feeling that's been creeping over me for weeks. You see, my name's Michael Thompson, and I'm a 45-year-old high school teacher in a small town in Maine. You might think teaching's the hardest part, but no. Sometimes it's those quiet mornings, like now, that make me feel like something's scratching at the back of my mind. The thing is, it's probably because of my father. He disappeared during a fishing trip back in '79 when I was just a kid. One moment, he's packing the cooler, the next, gone. No note, no body, no goodbye. The lake just swallowed him up, and my life was never quite the same. The void left by him. Well, it's the reason I've been obsessed with stability, with knowing. I became a teacher, married Laura, settled down, made sure my life wouldn't have any wild swings. Knowledge keeps things straight, keeps things safe. Laura, my wife, she knows me better than anyone. Even now, as she comes out onto the porch, she looks at me with that knowing glance, the one that says she's seen through the poker face. Our son Jake is home too. He's 18, restless, ready to leave for college. He's been hanging around more than usual, wanting to get in some father-son time before he takes off. The whole family, even my mom, who lives a couple blocks away, they're all tuned into this unspoken thing that haunts me, my mom especially. I think she's still holding on even now, even all these years later. Jake dropped a bombshell over dinner last night, though. He suggested we go fishing, not just anywhere, but to the same lake where my dad vanished. He's looking at me with those wide, eager eyes, and I swear, I could feel my stomach drop to my shoes. He thinks it'll be some big adventure, some meaningful bonding trip before college. I'm torn, you know? On one hand, it's that place, the place that's haunted me for decades. On the other, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to face whatever ghosts are out there. I'm chewing over my thoughts when Laura catches on. You're thinking about it, aren't you? She says, leaning over the dinner table, squeezing my hand. She's not pushing either way, just there. Jake's all excitement, though. Come on, Dad, you know it's what he'd want. Closure or something. And Mom, well, she's just listening in the background, offering that gentle warning only moms can. That lake, Michael, it's dangerous. It's swallowed enough of us. The truth is, I've wondered my whole life. How could my father, a man who knew those woods like his own backyard, just vanish? It was the talk of the town back then. Some folks said he just up and left. Others blamed the lake, like it had its own dark will. And here's Jake, ready to take me back there. Maybe it's time to stare the damn lake in the eye. So I decide, hell, we're going. If this is gonna haunt me, it might as well do it properly. We prep for the trip, pack the rods, a cooler full of sandwiches, you know, father-son stuff. I even made a stop at the local library. They have this dusty corner with old papers and reports, and I thought maybe I'd find something, but it's like my dad was erased. Laura, ever practical, is planning a weekend at her sister's. She says it'll give Jake and me space. My buddy Dave, who's the local sheriff, gives me a map. Stick to the marked trails, all right? He says. He's got this serious look, like maybe he knows more than he lets on. The drive there is anything but smooth. The GPS conks out. Recalculating. My ass, it's just dead. Radio starts hissing static, and Jake's trying to read the paper map like he's Indiana Jones. It's dark when we finally make it, the air heavy with that damp smell of lake water and old trees. We get to the campsite and start unloading, and I spot something weird. There's a rock near the old fire pit, and tucked under it's a photograph. It's of my dad. The photo's dated the day after he vanished. My hands feel cold, and I stare at it like it might somehow give me an answer. Dad? What's up? Jake asks, noticing my expression. I show him the picture and his face goes pale. How is that even possible? My mind's racing. This changes everything. Maybe he didn't drown. Maybe he didn't disappear. Maybe he's been here all along. I tell Jake we're gonna look around. Can't just let this slide. He's all in, of course. All fired up. We swap fishing rods for flashlights, and we're poking around the campsite, talking, sharing old stories about Grandpa. Jake's got fears of his own, about leaving for college, about not being ready. And here we are, both of us trying to figure out how to face what's next. Night comes on, thick and quiet. I'm looking out over that black expanse of water, remembering the last time I saw my dad, grinning, cooler slung over his shoulder. I felt abandoned for so long, but being here, somehow it feels different, like maybe it wasn't his choice. We're searching the area when we stumble on an old cabin, half hidden in the woods. The place is rough, a roof that's barely hanging on, windows shattered. But inside, there's proof someone's been here. There's food, a cot, a half-burned candle. My stomach twists, and then we hear it. A rustling, a movement. Before I know it, there's a figure, an older man, wild hair, staring at us through the doorway. His face. He looks like my dad. "Hey!" I shout, and he bolts, just like that. Jake and I crash through the brush, trying to follow, but the forest just eats him up. He's gone as quickly as he appeared, leaving us breathless, standing in the dark. "Dad, do you think—" Jake starts, and I don't know how to answer. Was it him? Could he still be alive? I've got more questions now than I've ever had, but one thing I do know. This has brought Jake and me together in a way I didn't expect. It's like the more we uncover, the closer we get, even if the answers are slippery. When we get home, I tell Laura and my mom everything. Laura's face is a mix of worry and something else, maybe hope. Mom's quiet, a tear rolling down her cheek. Dave, my sheriff friend, promises to dig into it, to help me find out if there's any record of someone living out there. Now, it's back to work, back to the classroom. I've got this renewed sense of something. Purpose, maybe. The students are filing out, and I'm packing up my things, and there's this old photo of my dad on my desk. I pick it up, look at his smile. "We're coming for you," I whisper, sliding it into my bag. For the first time in years, I feel ready to chase whatever truth is out there, to face whatever comes next. Story 2. Most days are slow. I'm retired now, living the quiet life in a little coastal town, spending more time pruning roses than I ever imagined. Not exactly the thrill ride of being a detective, but I like it. Keeps my mind occupied. I'm good with my hands. And besides, the neighbors seem to like my help with their garden fences and whatnot. It's peaceful. Except lately, things haven't felt quite right. There's a tension in the air. The sort of tension you notice after years of being the one who's supposed to solve the unsolvable. In 1979, I was young, green, a detective who still thought he could save everyone. And then there was that fishing trip, the one that nobody ever talks about, not to this day. We were a bunch of fresh-faced officers with a weekend off, looking for some relaxation. Instead, we ended up with a mystery that sunk deep into the back of our minds, like something lurking under the water. None of us had any real answers back then, and none of us were willing to risk our careers over telling ghost stories. Ellen, my wife, she's the anchor that's kept me steady. We got married right after that year, after that mess. I think she's always understood when I needed quiet, needed time to think. Our son, Michael, he's got kids of his own now. They come by all the time, filling the house with laughter. But these days, even Ellen can tell something's off. She asked me about it over dinner last night. Just the two of us at the table, the TV humming in the background. Then Michael dropped by, brought it up himself. "Dad, you hearing about the pets going missing? Folks around town are getting freaked out." He gave me this look, like he wanted me to pull out a badge and start interrogating the neighbors. I'm retired, kid, not dead. But it's true. The uneasy feeling's back. Missing pets, strange noises. It's like the echoes of 1979, and it's got me wondering if we're dealing with the same damn thing. That's the thing about 1979. Me and some of the guys saw something. We didn't know what it was, but we knew it wasn't right, so we agreed not to talk about it. If anyone asked, we caught nothing, saw nothing. And for decades I tried to believe that was true. Until now. Enough is enough. I dug out the old box from the attic, files I shouldn't have kept, but couldn't bring myself to throw away. Dusty notes, photographs. Ellen caught me sorting through them in the garage. She didn't say anything, but I could feel her eyes on me. She knows when I'm falling down a rabbit hole. I decided it was time to make some calls. The guys I went out with that night. Not many of us left now. Time's funny like that, taking people away before you can finish the conversation. Michael's daughter, Emily, is sharp. She's got this curiosity, always asking questions. She caught me with the old maps spread out over the table. "Grandpa, are you working on a secret mission?" she asked, half joking, her eyes wide with excitement. I figured, why not let her help? She's better with tech than I ever was. Next thing I knew, she had her laptop out, pulling up satellite images, marking spots. We spent the next few evenings like that, her rattling off search terms, me pointing at places on the map. Turns out, not everyone wanted to talk. The few colleagues who were still around weren't exactly eager to relive old memories. One of them practically hung up on me when I mentioned the lake. Another, Joe, was a bit more open. He said he'd send over what he had. A week later, a small package showed up, no return address. Inside was a worn-out leather journal, Joe's journal. I opened it up, and there it was. Entries from 1979, scribbled notes about a shadow in the water, and something watching us. I didn't show Ellen, not yet. What was I supposed to say? That some old ghost story was coming back to haunt us? But the journal, it got under my skin. I told Michael I needed his help. He's a good guy, practical, but he trusts me. We started mapping out the recent incidents, trying to see if there was any connection. Emily, of course, was right there with us, all bright-eyed and eager. It was strange, but good too. Working with them made me feel like maybe this time we could actually do something. The nightmares came back, though. Dark water, something pulling at me. That feeling of helplessness, of knowing you're in over your head. I'd wake up in a sweat, Ellen rubbing my back, whispering that it was just a dream. I hadn't told her everything, but I think she knew. She always knows. Things escalated when a kid went missing, Tommy, 8 years old. The whole town was in a panic, people pointing fingers, blaming anyone they could think of. I knew we didn't have time. We had to act. We gathered at the docks. Me, Michael, Emily, a few of the old crew, and some folks from town. We had flashlights, ropes, whatever we could find. The air was thick with fear, but we couldn't back out now. At the old docks, everything felt wrong. The water was too still, too dark. We spread out, and then, there it was. A shape, moving just beneath the surface, rippling the water. Emily gasped, pointing. "There!" she shouted. We saw it. A figure, pale, almost human, but not quite. It moved fast, too fast. Panic hit us like a wave. Michael and I ran towards the edge, ropes in hand, while the others scattered. The thing, whatever it was, lunged, and we barely managed to pull one of the townsfolk back before they got dragged under. We fought it off. I don't even remember all of it. Just flashes, the cold water, the screams, the struggle. In the end, it slipped away, back into the depths, but we knew we'd scared it off, at least for now. One of the guys, Dave, took a bad hit. He'd be all right, but it was close. Too close. After that night, the town changed. People knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to understand that something dark was lurking out there. I told Ellen the whole story, everything I'd kept hidden. She listened, her eyes sad but understanding. Michael and I talked more openly, too. Emily, she's got a fire in her now. She told me she's thinking about becoming an investigator, just like her old grandpa. God help her. Things have settled down. The pets stopped disappearing. The nights are quieter again. I've taken to sharing some of my old stories, the real ones, with folks around town. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, but I'm done keeping secrets. Emily and I are even planning a little project, documenting the town's history, the real history. Who knows, maybe it'll help someone down the line. I still walk down to the shore now and then. The water's calm today, just a gentle lapping against the rocks. I stand there, thinking about everything we faced, everything we're still facing, Some truths aren't meant to be buried. I take a deep breath, let it out slow. "We're ready for you," I whisper, and for the first time in a long time, I actually believe it.